Nothing's gonna bring us down. We're going up and up and up.
Hiya! Welcome to another episode of Otaku Evolution. In this video, we'll be taking a look at the Mamoru Oshii movie, The Skycrawlers, and asking a pressing question. Does Mamoru Oshii still have it? That's, bit difficult to answer. When was the last time we were all impressed by a Mamoru Oshii movie? Now, tastes will vary, but when was the last time he directed an anime that was largely beloved? Arguably, it was the first Ghost in the Shell movie back in 1995. That was almost 25 years ago, 2.5 decades. And what has he been up to since? Well, aside from directing the extremely divisive sequel, Ghost in the Shell Innocence, and live-action movies like the live-action Patlabor, not a lot in terms of films. Certainly in terms of anime. But he remains a staple of the anime diet, almost as mandatory as Hayao Miyazaki, Satoshi Kon, or Katsuhiro Otomo. It's hard to downplay the significance of influence and grandeur some of his past works have, from Urusei Yatsura, Beautiful Dreamer, to Angel's Egg, to Patlabor 2. Even if he had only directed those in the first Ghost in the Shell, his place in anime history would have already been secure. So it's not like I'm trying to take away from what he's accomplished. I just wonder if he's not lost a few steps in the meantime. The last time he directed an animated film was 2008's The Skycrawlers, based on the first in a series of novels by Hiroshi Mori. Ah, my mistake. He insists his name be in Eastern style, Mori Hiroshi. Fine. The movie won several awards at film festivals and positive acclaim by critics, but I don't recall anyone ever listing it among their favorite anime films, and it's mostly fallen by the wayside in recent years. When was the last time anyone mentioned The Skycrawlers to you? Think about it. Me? I think Oshii, I think Patlabor. Frankly, Ghost in the Shell is in better hands with his protege, Kenji Kamiyama. Though who knows with that CG standalone complex coming up. But let's take a look at this movie and maybe get a glimpse of why it's faded.
I know war is horrible, but you're helping us maintain a peaceful world. We really appreciate what you're doing for us.
That's my job, ma'am.
The Skycrawlers is largely about Yuichi Kannami, a fighter pilot who arrives at the Rostock Corporation's Area 262 aerial base to replace the previously disappeared pilot. Yuichi gets a cold reception from his CO, Suito Kusanagi, and no real answers from any of the other personnel as to what happened to his predecessor. Soon it becomes clear that he has no answers about his own past either, and while he finds himself drawn to Kusanagi, he can't quite figure out why she's drawn to him too. All he knows for sure is that an enemy pilot called Teacher kills all he encounters, and the pilots of 262 can't possibly defeat him.
I was there with Kishinuma and Kumatake and got a look at exactly how it happened. The Skyly came up from behind Kishinuma and almost caught him, and he did a half roll and raised his nose like this. The Skyly stall turn let Kumatake pass as he covered Kishinuma. Then he did a snap roll and closed in on Kumatake, just like that. Fired at point blank. And I'm guessing that Shinoda was taken out in the same way. And it had a black jaguar in its nose.
The world of the Skycrawlers is a mix of time periods, with old-fashioned planes and cars, but they also have television and personal computers. In place of large-scale wars, different corporations compete in aerial combat to satisfy the public's need for aggressive competition. The other company in this movie we hear of is Lautern, which Teacher flies for, though apparently he was once in Rostock. So let's call this an alternative history that takes place, I don't know, in an accelerated 1950s or thereabouts? Oh, and also the fighting is done by genetically modified children called children that don't age after adolescence. The crux of the movie revolves around the mystery of Area 262 and Yuichi's identity. It initially springs from his desire to know more about the guy he's replacing, who he discovers was killed, ostensibly by Kusanagi for some unknown reason. The mystery becomes more about Kusanagi and her own strange behavior after a while. Then it's tied to the existence of the unbeatable pilot Teacher and Kusanagi's obsession with stopping him. Then Yuichi begins to notice things about himself and the people around him that just don't add up, questions he ignored or let pass without a real answer. We're even introduced to somebody else questioning things, Midori Mitsuya, from one of the other Rostock areas, who doesn't know whether she's a Kildren or not. All the pilots appear to know is how to fly and fight without special training, and have little thought to their pasts. However, it becomes clear that Kusanagi is one of the few Kildren that have been around long enough to start questioning her existence, and much of her behavior can be colored with that, especially upon rewatching the film.
Or do me a favor and kill me. Because you see, if you don't, nothing will ever change for us.
There's a sense in the movie that life for these pilots is fleeting and almost inconsequential. They seem expected to die and don't seem to mind the possibility, as if programmed to. Meanwhile, the wars between the companies are little more than entertainment for the masses, who view them as a novelty. The dehumanization of the pilots and hypocrisy of the public is highlighted.
Oh, God. Help him. Oh, please. Poor boy.
Enough is enough! Don't pity him! He's by no means a poor boy. How dare you people insult him with your meaningless pity?
Calm down.
The movie features Oshii's usual stark alienation and a sense of detached reality, as Yuichi's almost dreamlike haze of a life continues apace. The viewer wondering why he doesn't follow up on his investigations into the happenings around him. But by the end of the film, you realize just why this is the case, and I'll get to it in a little bit. But first, what we're all here to see, aerial combat! There's not a whole lot of hot dogging, so it's not like there are these intricate dogfights most of the time, but there's plenty of decent flight and fight in the film, and the CGI doesn't bother me that much because there's some great perspective shots and cockpit shots that really make the action come alive. It doesn't try to glorify the combat too much, the way you get with some anime. It's deadly warfare and it treats it as such. The following part includes spoilers, so you may want to opt out and wait for my final summary. In the final act of the movie, the audience is let in that Yuichi isn't, well, the first Yuichi, nor are several of the pilots that work for Rostock. Many are a byproduct of trying to clone other pilots, especially, in Yuichi's case, Teacher. Teacher was Kusanagi's mentor and lover, and it's implied he, or one of his clones, fathered her child. And she's seen several incarnations of Yuichi in the past, even having killed one who was tired of living after he discovered the truth. Kusanagi is constantly mourning the loss of her lover and or the incarnations of him as she watches each one introduced and die some way. That's a pretty good twist, I have to say, but the movie does a strange thing with it that sort of lessens the impact. It spells it out towards the end when Mitsuya visits Yuichi. She basically sits there and through exposition we discover everything about the twist through her. This, by the way, being a character who barely had a role in the movie, who we only saw asking questions once and never saw investigate things, and was never present during any of Yuichi's moments of clarity. She never even exchanged any words with Kusanagi. So instead of retaining some kind of ambiguity, the movie throws much of it out in favor of telling the viewer what it had up its sleeve the whole time. What the fuck, movie? I'm not saying that it had to remain completely ambiguous, but at least don't entirely spell it out for us in the final act like we were too stupid to catch on. Maybe that was the case with the novel too, but Oshii had plenty of power to eschew it for some more mystique. That being said, there are still some things you have to figure out on your own, especially concerning the very end, but the movie would have been so much more if it kept its air of enigma. I'd say overall it's a decent movie. The question is, does Oshii still have what it takes to compete for our attention? Well, yes and no. He certainly isn't at his peak anymore, if the Skycrawlers is any indication, but the movie was still interesting enough to keep with the whole time. It never bored me.
All fighters, evacuate battle area. Repeat, evacuate battle area. Darren, where are you? Altitude 3000, turning left to join the others. Copy that. Joining you from below, 4 o'clock. Where's Scotty? No joy.
Scotty, come in, this is Karen.
I'm not getting an answer.
Mission complete. RTB, boys. Repeat. Return to base, everyone.
In June of this year, Oshii announced his work on an anime called Vladlove, which will be out in 2020. It's said to be a comedy. Will it be any good? Only time will tell. Anyway, it's the holidays again, which means my Christmas episode. That's next time on Otaku Evolution. Until then, see ya!
Because our war is really nothing but a game that is not supposed to ever end, there needs to be several rules in place. For example, there must be an enemy who cannot be defeated.